Victory in great power competition is never achieved without sacrifice, measured not only in lives and fortunes, but in moral burden. For those who lead and those who follow, sacrifice is not incidental. It is the crucible in which both ethics and leadership are tested. And in the long shadow of history, it is often the price paid, not the prize won, that defines a nation's character.
The connection between leadership and ethics, it has to be holistic and it has to be mutually informative. In order to lead, you have to have certain capacities. Likewise, though, to do so ethically, you need to understand what the reasons are that are animating and driving those tactical level decisions.
The nation expects much from you, and we know that you're ready.
And a full officer, a well-rounded officer, should be able to have competencies and an understanding of how those things connect.
We don't know when we're going to be tested, so we live that they'll bear us the strength. Because the ghosts of our legacy whisper to us from every monument, the memorials, the stones and the bricks whisper to us, beckoning us to ask ourselves, am I worthy? Am I worthy of this legacy? Am I worthy of the sacrifice of those who have come before me?
Live in a way that gives meaning to those we will lose. And for everyone who's put one of those people into the ground, the imperative to give that loss meaning is so salient, it's so important. We have to make sure that if we're going to lose someone, it has to mean something. It has to be in the service of the protection and the promotion of our essential ideals. And to do anything less than that is a disservice to not only anyone from the current generation who will lose their life in the great power competition, but every person who's done that in every generation's past.
Our main claim during this series of short films focused on great power competition has been, we're at war, are you doing all you can? It's a challenge. And if you look at everything that's happened around the globe in the period of time since we initially launched this conversation, we've had every bit of evidence that great power competition is well underway.
An extraordinary display of military might on the streets of central Beijing today.
So the previous commandant said early and often that midshipmen who are here now need to be prepared to graduate into conflict.
What we talk about on a regular basis here, which is obviously preparing to commission you into an era of conflict.
We've got a lot of evidence that that's been the case.
10 days ago, American and British aircraft, along with cruise missiles from U.S. Navy ships, went on the offensive, launching 150 weapons at Houthi targets in Yemen.
There have been young ensigns and second lieutenants that weeks, months removed from graduation, they're in the Red Sea. They're engaged in high-intensity, kinetic combat operations. It's not limited to the Red Sea. It's gone well beyond that.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime.
All of our focus, all of our preparation, all of the language that we've used about are you prepared is actually being driven by real-world events.
And U.S. forces say their strikes on Iran-backed militants are weakening the group's capabilities. The U.S. has been launching near-daily strikes on Houthi missile batteries in Yemen.
The world has matched the urgency of our message.
I would start this story when I enlisted right out of high school. I originally didn't really want to go to college, didn't seem like the right thing for me. Took the ASVAB, did really well, and they kind of said, you can do whatever you want. So I chose to join the submarine force. That's where I earned my submarine qualification. So I spent about a year on the USS Jimmy Carter, where the wardroom at the time was like, hey man, we kind of see something in you that you don't really see in yourself yet. You're only 19 years old. Didn't really want to apply to college. They were like, we're forcing you to apply to the Naval Academy before I knew what it was. So I didn't apply, and then they told me to apply again. So luckily I applied, and the day that I got into the Naval Academy, February 19th, was the same day that I got my submarine qualification. So best day of my life for my career as an enlisted individual, and then also what was the start of a new journey to come to the Naval Academy. That photo is me with my best friend in the entire world. So when I was on the Jimmy Carter, I met my best friend Gus, and when I applied to the Naval Academy, he originally wasn't interested. And once I got into the Naval Academy and he saw the opportunities that I was getting, he applied. So we actually got to spend 3 years at the Naval Academy together. Being a detailer, I think, is one of the best leadership opportunities that you can do at the Naval Academy. But for me, it was a great time. I was getting to run around training plebes and occasionally seeing my best friend who was a plebe. Plebe summer is exactly what being a division officer is like. You show up on day one and they say, here are a group of individuals, take care of them, figure out their needs. You know, and that's anywhere from physical, emotional, spiritual. You have to be able to just figure out what these people need, and sometimes with no direction. Everyone has unique problems, and it's your job to figure it out. Plebe summer was my first real leadership experience, being handed a group of people that I was responsible for.
Let's get the elephant out of the room. How many of you have never seen me face to face? Yeah! I'm Gil Clark. Nice to meet you. 91st Commandant of the United States Naval Academy. As I came up to speed very quickly, since I became Commandant 3 days later was I-Day, it just slapped me in the face. That plebe summer, we call it plebe summer, but it's really about the detailers.
Catch up! Catch up!
It's the detailers that are getting all that experience, and they're gonna learn.
Catch up! Catch up! Catch up!
The reality is we immerse the military experience into our students for 4 years. That finish line into commissioning is always present. After 4 years, they feel like they've been doing leadership for 4 years. And so that's why this place is so unique, to build you for that leadership experience that we're gonna throw you in as soon as you get commissioned. Okay. I commissioned into my first ship, Denver, and then I just most recently came from a command called Naval Surface Group Southwest that we stood up a little over about a year and a half ago. As a career SWO, SWO was my first choice. There was something about being on a ship. If I was gonna join the Navy, I wanted to see sunsets out in the ocean and travel the world.
As tensions with China continue to rise, we wanted to know more about the current state of the U.S. Navy and how it's trying to deter China while preparing for the possibility of war.
This last deployment that I went on was my first 7th Fleet focused deployment. And I was overseeing Taiwan Strait transits. I had the aircraft carrier getting chased by Chinese submarines and Luoyang 3 destroyers in the South China Sea. I went all around the Philippines, and I was thinking to myself every time I would go visit one of my ships, these junior officers are getting to learn this geography that may very much be in play one day if we go into conflict with our near-peer competitors. And so those experiences, to sail those waters and to see those choke points and to understand the geography, 70% of the trade goes through the ocean. And the economy, the global economy, requires a safe passage that we provide. That is SWO. Who has had a chance to read my Commandant's Intent? Good mentors of mine said it needs to be one page, and it needs to be simple, and it needs to be something that's memorable. And so I knew I wanted it to be win, warfighting first, because that's just how I think. To sum it up, it is win. So when I say win, the W means warfighting first. Anyone in the class of 26 to 29 is going to commission into conflict at best. And so you are going to commission into conflict, if not combat. And so everything that I am going to get the staff to focus on, everything that I want you to focus on, is warfighting first. Because if we are not creating the next generation of second lieutenants and ensigns that are ready to go fight and win from the sea, then we're not doing it right. Who did a summer cruise on anything that has seen Red Sea or Mediterranean type duties? So you had some opportunities to speak to them, right? Seconds with inbound ballistic missiles that had never been shot in the world. coming at our ships, and we are executing flawlessly. Taiwan Strait transits in a contested environment between Taiwan and China. That's what we're doing. The immediacy of the opportunity to put everything we teach into practice. So we graduate, and depending on what you service select, you could be on your first unit within a couple of months, and that unit may be deploying. Deployment could be off the coast of Yemen, where they're getting shot at with some of the most incredible weapons ever used in warfare, anti-ship ballistic missiles operating at hypersonic speeds, decision space, where we have minutes to determine whether or not that's an actual missile and defend the ship. This stuff is immediate. You get to that first ship and you find yourself on the bridge watching missiles launch from the launchers. We need to have that warfighting mindset established here on a daily basis to make sure that we know what we're getting into when we get commissioned and we join the profession of arms.
2024 was by far the most unbelievable year of my life. It started February 1st when I chose USS Jason Dunham out of Mayport, Florida.
Next up, we have Midshipman Luke Adams.
And I chose that, one, because I wanted to be in Mayport, and two, because I knew she was going to be going on deployment right after I graduated.
So select USS Jason Dunham out of Mayport, Florida.
And like that, for me, that's what I wanted. I wanted to graduate, hit the fleet, and start doing my job. May 24th, 2024, I graduated, became an ensign in the world's greatest Navy.
Luke Meatall!
I was prepared. I felt like after I graduated, the next day I could have got onto my ship and started being a division officer. And then 4 months later, I found myself in Rota, Spain on November 1st, meeting the ship on deployment. Day one, I showed up and like, these are your people. I stood in front of 30 enlisted sailors and I was like, I'm your new division officer. How can I help you? And it was basically just figure it out as much as you can. Some of my guys have marriage issues, financial issues, some of them have alcohol addictions. And now I'm the guy that they're trying to get answers from to help figure their own lives out. It's like if I wake up one day and decide I don't want to do anything, well, that impacts their life. And it doesn't impact me, but me not doing my job directly impacts the quality of my sailor's life. 2 weeks later, we were transiting down the Suez Canal and into the Red Sea. So we were the second strike group to make it down into the Red Sea, and we were the first destroyer for this strike group to get down there. When we had got down there, we primarily hung out in the northern Red Sea, and we didn't really see any action. And then 2 days before Christmas, December 23rd, was the first time we actually engaged with the Houthis.
Tensions in the nearby Red Sea. A U.S. warship shot down 14 drones fired by suspected Houthi rebels in Yemen.
You know, they shot at us, and we shot down missiles and drones that they were shooting at us. And that's within the same year that I graduated. And I was in the Red Sea as my ship. I watched my CO authorize a missile to leave the ship to shoot something down.
The Houthis, a once obscure tribe from the mountains of Yemen, have combined Islamic revolutionary fervor with Iranian-supplied weapons to disrupt global commerce and take on the U.S. military.
I was the junior officer of the deck when the Houthis had fired a drone at us, and we had tried to shoot it down. We missed the first time. And as junior officer of the deck, I'm backing up the officer of the deck with safe navigation, making sure there's no ships around, and trying to keep your composure when you know that there's a missile coming at you that you just missed the first time you shot it. Still trying to drive the ship, trying to keep the ship in a place where you can fight the ship to still shoot this missile down. I think that's where my leadership from the Naval Academy really came in. You know, remaining calm under pressure. There was a missile that we could see coming at us, and having to still do my job and direct junior sailors to drive the ship, maneuver it safely with an incoming threat. That was one of the most challenging things I've ever done. I don't think you can describe combat with one word. There's the historical, boots on the ground combat, but there's also being on a ship, being on the bridge when I watched SM-2s leave the cells to go shoot down something that was coming at us. It's terrifying, but I still had to perform. I still had to be a junior officer of the deck. I still had to be up there giving directions, giving orders, because that's what the ship needed. And the consequences of not performing could have been catastrophic.
Developing now, we're learning a cruise missile launched by the Houthis into the Red Sea Tuesday night came within a mile of a Norfolk-based warship.
I'm a surface warfare officer. I've been in the Navy for about a year. I have a combat action ribbon. I've seen things get shot down. I've seen things, land in the water in front of us that they were so close to us. We watched an MRBM going 7,000 miles an hour splash in the water in front of us. That had our name on it. That was coming for us. There's some close calls. We were too close, some of them. I don't think it hit me how far I had progressed until I got back from deployment.
Hundreds of sailors now back home with their families tonight following an 8-month deployment. The USS Jason Dunham returned to Naval Station Mayport today.
That really changes your perspective on what you're thankful for, what you want out of life. In the first year after I graduated, I spent 220 days on deployment, and 192 of those days were at sea. And it felt like I was gone for a long weekend. I had seen combat, I'd seen the best and worst of people in a combat environment on a surface ship, and then I was back to living my normal life. It was unbelievable.
Luke spent the vast majority of his time in the Navy, a relatively short period of time in the Navy, either deployed in combat operations or forward deployed preparing for combat operations. I don't think that dynamic is going to change for our graduates in the near future. Just as after 9/11, our graduates went straight into the fight in Afghanistan or Iraq, some other places, we pretty much anticipate the same dynamic for our graduates going forward. Classes of 26, 27, 28, and beyond. They're going to be going to a fight. It may be a different fight from the counterinsurgency of the early aughts, but it's going to be a fight. So the imperative is for us to prepare them as best we can for that reality.
You need to be physically ready, you need to be mentally ready, you need to understand why the conflict, the geopolitics, the way they are. We're in phase 0. Phase 0 is the hardest phase because that's where we're just in conflict. So every day in phase 0 is competition.
So as we come full circle in this conversation, let's return to the image just outside the Stockdale Center.
We have to have that mindset when we're in this profession to be ready for conflict at any moment. And so that poster is spot on.
We're talking about preparing for war. It's probably useful to pause on that term war. In this conversation, we've addressed the idea of competition. What is great power competition? It's a very wide variety of activities that the Navy and the Marine Corps participate in, sometimes including kinetic operations, but it can also just be showing the flag and being present. It can be counter-narcotics operations.
We just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat.
We probably need to focus a little less on what the meaning of war or even competition is, and a little bit more on are you doing all you can. If there's any operative part of that poster that I'd like people to focus on is, are you doing all you can? What is it that everybody around here at the Naval Academy is focused on? Optimizing midshipmen, their preparation for facing down any challenge that our country encounters in the coming years.